Every summer when I go to the Ren Fair, I usually make a costume that's just kind of an amalgamation of random pieces that I have in my collection that kind of makes sense for that setting. This year, however, I wanted to be a little more intentional, and with this goal in mind, I knew exactly the direction I wanted to go.
Didst thou ever want to be a pirate, Marty?
Yes, I did. So that's exactly what we're going to do. I'm going to create a original pirate look, and I'm going to create a character to go along with that. Something I've wanted to do for a long time is make a video about my kind of costume and character creation process. So I'm going to take you along as I share kind of step by step how I go from concept to costume to character, and everything that influences that and all the steps in between. One thing that I love about pirates is how, at least in the kind of costume sense, wild and eccentric they can be. These are outfits that defy reason sometimes. No one would actually be wearing something that looks like that when out on the high seas, and yet in the fantasy worlds we like to see them in, these are very exuberant costumes. We want to be bold, we want to be flamboyant, we want to be in your face.
It'll be so good to see you out of those dreary clothes. So very small-town errand boy, howlingly parochial.
I've been a cosplayer since 2011, and for me, that means making my own props, styling my wigs myself, doing my own makeup, but I am not a seamstress. So when I knew I wanted to create an eye-catching pirate look, I wasn't going to be the one making the coat or the blouse or any of that. Luckily, there are a ton of amazing artists out there who are creating those pieces for us. It can feel sometimes that you are expected to do everything yourself, and that's not true at all. Buying a costume piece from an artist is supporting that artist. I knew I wanted a pirate shirt with big flowy sleeves, so I started there. So when I came across the Night Whisper Lolita shop on Etsy and their collection of pirate Ren Fair blouses, I kind of knew where I was going. They had so many great colors, and it was particularly this kind of teal seafoam blue that really caught my eye.
Now that's a great looking shirt. Aye, Captain. Yeah.
Once I decided on that, knowing that that was going to be the big base color at the heart of this costume, I now needed something to go on top of it that wouldn't distract from that color scheme. So being a fan of high contrast, I was now leaning towards maybe less of an eccentric coat, since I knew the sleeves and the hat would be very eccentric on their own. When reviewing my options, I found a shop called Shrine of Hollywood. They had a lot of amazing pieces, kind of pricey, but definitely seemed worthwhile. And after seeing the reviews and the photos that went along with them, I decided on this long necromantic coat/vest. Something that was kind of dark, something that would provide a nice contrast against the bright blue seafoam kind of color. Also, I liked that it was sleeveless, so I could really show off those sleeves since that was going to be such a big part of the look. And it was this long piece, kind of very tailored, and it would draw your eye up and down to help kind of make me seem maybe a little taller than I am. So with the coat and the blouse purchased, now I had the basis of my look. I also had my color scheme picked out. From there, it was time to make the hat. And here's what I created. This is just basically a black sun hat, I think $10 from Target. Then I went to Michael's, and I just had honestly a lot of fun walking up and down kind of the different aisles, looking for what little doodads I could put on it. I knew I wanted something with this kind of ruffle, since I feel like that's a nice detail that I've seen in a lot of hats that I liked. I also knew I wanted something that could be kind of like this drapery, so finding this pearl chain with the gold, that kind of worked out really nicely too. The tulle on top is one of my favorite parts, and especially in the last few years of my experience making costumes, I have been so drawn to working with tulle. I've found that it can be great for different kind of like implied effects. I made a kind of ball gown for a Hades look from Disney's Hercules, and I used blue tulle to emulate kind of his fire. Here again, drawn to the blue tulle and just like the sparkles in it, I thought it was so pretty. So I took rows of this, cut them, folded them in half, did this kind of crimping Then sewed the base and I secured it with just some glue. Then those could kind of fan out into these little pretty shapes. And from there I lined them in the interior of the hat. But obviously, feathers. Had to have so many feathers. One of my favorite fictional pirates is Captain Barbossa, and his fabulous hat with its giant plumage has always just kind of stayed in my brain.
I'll buy you the hat. A really big one. Commodore.
So as many feathers as possible. Obviously we've got some of the peacock green in there, but mostly staying towards that blue tone. These blue and kind of light, I don't know, white, yellowish white. These are actually like decorative, kind of like decorative grass that they sold in their sort of like fake flower section. So it's not actually feathers, but it does the trick. It gives the illusion of it. From there, knowing too that I wanted to have kind of little dangly bits coming down, obviously looking at the beads, these are just a couple that I got from different packs that I put together, and then finding kind of the little gems and the little trinkets. There were a couple of sort of like nautical, almost like mermaid theme little pieces that I was kind of drawn to. And the octopus in the middle, this was a detail as well that I kind of went back and forth in it for a little while. And then when I decided to go for this larger pendant, that, as we get to the character creation concept, that becomes a larger player in sort of talking about, okay, who is this person? What is her iconography? And placing the octopus in the center there, that kind of solidified that this would be a big part of who this pirate character is. Okay, so we had a concept. We knew pirate, colorful, big sleeves, high contrast. Through looking online at different Etsy shops, we then acquired the pieces that we needed to create the look. From there, we could build the hat, which I think for pirates especially, the hat is so iconic to who a pirate is. Obviously, with one like this, I'm a captain. Like, that's what she has to be. You have that commanding hat, you're the person in charge of that ship. I've already mentioned Captain Barbossa, how much I love his giant hat, and the fact that they even talk about it in the movie as being something that is important to him in his look. 2003's version of Captain Hook, I loved how much they focused on his costuming, how eccentric he is, and also that kind of alludes to elements of his backstory from the original play and novel, which I think are really fun. I guess what I'm saying is the hat kind of says a lot about the character, at least when it comes to pirates. It's at this point that I want to talk about the importance of props when it comes to designing and developing your characters. The way a character dresses and presents themselves in the world says a lot about how they see themselves and how they want others to see them. So while the hat has already given us a lot to work with, it was actually another prop that really acted as the foundation for this character, and that is this little guy. This is a little crocheted octopus that I purchased from the Artist's Alley at a convention here locally. And first of all, everything kind of worked when I remembered that I had him. One, he's an octopus, it kind of goes with the visual theming we've already created, his color scheme works perfectly with it, but an important step when creating your character is to ask a lot of questions, interrogate yourself about the choices that you're making. Why would a pirate captain have a tiny octopus with them? And the answer I came up with is that he's actually not an octopus, he's a baby kraken.
Baby kraken?
Took a tumble, little guy. Don't worry, just like my pirate captain, I'm gonna take care of you. Because I had to ask myself, why would a pirate captain care for a baby kraken? Something that's gonna grow up to destroy her ship potentially one day. The answer I came up with is she is a veterinarian, and that's her job. My pirate captain sails the seas, providing veterinary care to wounded sea creatures and sea monsters, because though they might seem mean and scary, they're just misunderstood. Starting the character creation process with the visual design, we can now examine their appearance and use some of the details we find to flesh out their identity. As an illustrator, I do this quite often, coming up with the look of the character first and then building their personality and backstory around it. With that approach, my characters tend to lean more toward the fantastic. but since we're not basing this in a grounded reality, larger-than-life character traits are not only acceptable, but make the world they inhabit more whimsical and fun to explore. One thing we notice right away about Captain Minerva Quick is her fanciful attire. Reasonably, no doctor would work on patients while wearing such cumbersome sleeves. So, for the sake of a passing justification, let us assume that she does not come from a practical background, but one of gaudy exuberance. Here we see traces of the elegant past Minerva left behind. Once a wealthy heiress, raised in the comfort of abundant wealth and ostentatious fashion. This wealth and stature would have provided her with an education, enabling her to study medicine and marine biology, and perhaps even fund her participation in early ocean expeditions. While she's since abandoned high society and her luxurious life therein, Minerva's love for flamboyant fashion persisted, continuing to dress herself in eye-catching ensembles that soon became part of her iconic reputation. Now we must ask ourselves, in a fantastic world such as this, what does a marine veterinarian do? What sort of care would she provide to the sea monsters and ocean creatures encountered on her journey? I was first drawn to more comical concepts, like treating an octopus with a head cold and checking his pulse, or helping a merman stay up to date with his vaccinations, or pulling a rotten tooth for a grateful great white shark. Though, just like on land, not every customer walks away satisfied with their results. As fun and adorable as this concept was to explore, I realized it was starting to wander a little too far from the initial pirate concept. How could she call herself a true pirate if she didn't raid ships or terrorize sailors who got in her way? The solution to this identity crisis lay in her backstory, an experience that would transform Minerva, the marine biologist, into Captain Quick, defender of the creatures of the deep. While on a scientific voyage, her vessel encountered a whaling ship out at sea, and young Minerva witnessed firsthand the bloody and gruesome hunt of a sperm whale. Horrified and angered by the brutality enacted on such a large, gentle beast, that moment changed her forever. After petitions and pleas to her country's authority proved in vain, Minerva took action into her own hands. With what remained of her parents' fortune, she purchased a ship and hired a crew, men and women who knew the art of naval combat and could enact their will to take down the whaling ships and any vessel that would cause harm to the magnificent sea creatures she so adored. Years of attacking whalers and monster hunters garnered Captain Quick a fearsome reputation, a dark shadow to her otherwise sympathetic heart that longs only to embrace the freedom of the sea, providing protection and care for the mythical and aquatic life that call the ocean home. And here's the final look. What do you think? We got the sleeves, we got the waistcoat, we've got the hat, I've got Squiddy, he's taking a little break, having a nice place to sit. And we now got a few more just kind of pieces to add to her kind of octopus theme. Just felt on brand, just kind of felt right. The fun thing about putting together a pirate look of any kind is you can't really do too much you can add as many random things to it as you want, in my opinion anyway. So, you want to add more gold medallions? Do it. Does your pirate have feathers in her hair? Then add them. There's really no such thing as too much. I've only got a Party City pirate sword, so that's probably my next thing. And who knows, maybe at Ren Fair I'll find a sword I want to invest in. But for now, we got this wobbly so-and-so. But he does the trick. Good enough to have just at the waist, just so you can kind of feel ready. Kind of puts you more into the character. And I guess along those lines, I kind of wanted to just end this by saying, you know, maybe you're asking, okay, you're not doing role play, right? This isn't a LARP. Like, why are you creating this character? So I'm not going to be like in character as Minerva when I'm walking around the fairgrounds with my friends. I'm not quite that extra yet. But for me, as if I put this much work into a look, and especially when I'm going into such a immersive activity and an immersive environment that is so heavily themed, it just feels better to be part of the experience and to feel as if I'm not just a modern day person walking around this kind of medieval setting, but what if I was, you know, just a bit more part of that world? And it kind of helps me just embrace the fun and the whimsy of it. The idea of coming up with a backstory for Minerva, it's just kind of fun to keep in the back of my mind. You know, as she's walking through this village, what is she looking for? Like, what would my character be wanting to engage with? Again, not planning to be in character as her, but I don't know, there's something about going into that setting and just knowing that you have kind of an identity that would reside there as you're walking around this place. It just kind of adds to the fun. But that's just my take on it. Don't always go quite this hard. This is, like I said, the first time I've invested in a more official, unified look and a more actual kind of official character for the purpose of going to the Ren Fair. Normally, it's just kind of whatever I have, and again, I'm not a particular person. I'm just walking around having fun, and that's what I'll be doing is this. But in the back of my mind, I'll be thinking of Minerva, thinking of Captain Quick, and all the ways that she might be on the lookout for more little fellas, more little guys who might need help, and things like that. I hope that this process was, if not helpful, at least entertaining for you. It's something I've done a lot, and it's something I am going to continue to do, and I think there's lots of opportunities for other kind of costume and character creation just in the activities that I do in my kind of daily life, I guess. I have a lot of opportunities just in my kind of social life to be creating new costumes and new characters to go along with them, because why not? So as I do that going forward, I'll see if I can make more videos like this and bring you along. And I'd love to know what part of this you liked best. Do you want to see more of my speed illustrations? Do you want to see more of the kind of concept process, building things out, how I kind of get into the nitty-gritty of the character details and the background, like kind of development, or perhaps a more hands-on guide of making a prop as elaborate as like the hat, for example. Let me know what you liked best, and if I do more of these, then I'll make sure to kind of focus in on that. But for now, thank you so much for joining me with this process. It's been a lot of fun. Hope you liked it, and I hope that your next costume has a little more character behind it.